The lesson from this is that a guy called Vasili Arkhipov saved the world. This was said by Thomas S. Blanton, the director of the U.S. National Security Archive since 1992, back in 2002. It's not every day someone gets the credit for saving the world, so what exactly did Arkhipov do to earn the honor? Arkhipov came from a peasant family in the town of Staraya Kupovna, near Moscow. He went to the Pacific Higher Naval School and served during the Soviet-Japanese War in August 1945 as a minesweeper. He transferred to the Caspian Higher Naval School where he graduated in 1947. Afterward, he served in the submarine service aboard boats in the Black Sea, Northern, and Baltic fleets. In July 1961, Arkhipov earned his reputation after he served as a commander and executive officer on the new Hotel-class ballistic missile submarine K-19. He eventually became the second-in-command in B-59, one of 4 Foxtrot-class attack submarines ordered to Cuba from Murmansk on the 1st of October 1962. It was the Cuban Missile Crisis, the closest the Cold War came to escalating into a full-blown nuclear war. It was around 5 p.m. on the 27th of October 1962. A Soviet submarine has been spotted by the American Navy in the Caribbean. President John F. Kennedy has blockaded Cuba.
In addition, jet bombers capable of carrying nuclear weapons are now being uncrated and assembled in Cuba.
The Americans incessantly dropped depth charges, an anti-submarine warfare weapon, around the intruder. The Soviet could not tell what was going on. The Americans did not know that the submarine was holding a nuclear warhead, a weapon that had roughly the same power as the bomb dropped at Hiroshima. The submarine commander, Valentin Savitsky, ordered to prepare to fire, but Arkhipov intervened and persuaded him to wait for instructions from Moscow. But Moscow hasn't communicated with them for days. The crew had been picking up US civilian radio broadcasts, but once they've taken cover from the American pursuers, they were too deep to catch any radio traffic. The heat in the submarine rose. The air conditioning was broken. The ship couldn't surface without being exposed. Vadim Orlov, an intelligence officer there, said later about the incident, writing, "We thought that's it, the end." Savitsky then shouted, "Maybe the war has already started up there. We're gonna blast them now. We will die, but we will sink them all. We will not become the shame of the fleet."
And on board the submarines, each had an atomic torpedo.
The Soviets interpreted the Americans' attack as the start of World War III. That was when Arkhipov stepped in. He was Savitsky's equal, the flotilla commander in charge of the 3 Soviet subs on the secret mission to Cuba. What he said exactly to Savitsky is not known, but we can be sure that he talked Savitsky down. The story commonly told was that unlike the other submarines in the flotilla, each of the 3 Soviet submarine captains on the B-59 had the power to launch a nuclear torpedo, but only if they had the approval of all 3 senior officers on board. On their submarine, Savitsky gave the order and got 1 vote from the political officer Ivan Maslenikov, but Arkhipov rejected it. Arkhipov argued that the ship was not under attack technically. It was being asked to surface. The depth charges being launched yet not reaching their target was a signal. Even President Kennedy was concerned that the Soviets would interpret the depth charges as an attack.
Each of these missiles, in short, is capable of striking Washington, D.C., the Panama Canal, Cape Canaveral, Mexico City, or any other city in the southeastern part of the United States.
But the Soviet submarine eventually rose to the surface. A US destroyer met them. The Americans didn't board nor inspected the Soviets. The Soviets turned away from Cuba and returned to Russia. On their arrival, the crew faced disgrace from their superiors. One admiral told them that it would have been better if you'd gone down with your ship. Archipov's wife Olga said that he didn't like talking about it. He felt they hadn't appreciated what they had gone through. As far as was known, Arkhipov was not punished by the Soviets for his action. He was actually promoted later. A year later in 1963, he would be on another submarine, the K-19, where he got accidentally exposed to high levels of radiation. 22 crew members died over the next 2 years. Arkhipov would follow in 1998, passing away from kidney cancer, brought on by the exposure. It could have been a different scenario if the Americans found out there were nuclear torpedoes inside when they met B-59. They would only find out 50 years later. "We came very close to nuclear war, closer than we knew at the time," said Robert McNamara, the US Secretary of Defense during the Cuban Missile Crisis back in 2002. Arthur M. Schlesinger Jr., an advisor for the Kennedy administration, said that this was not only the most dangerous moment of the Cold War, it was the most dangerous moment in human history. It's been 60 years. The threat of a nuclear war is once again looming. There are nuclear weapons sifting around the world. from Russia, US, China, France, UK, Pakistan, India, Israel, and North Korea.
Приказываю министру обороны и начальнику генерального штаба перевести силы сдерживания российской армии в особый режим несения боевого дежурства.
Putin is currently waving around Russia's arsenal and threatening not just Ukraine, but the entire world. If the nuclear threat ever becomes a possibility, who would be the person or people to prevent it? Who would be our next Vasili Arkhipov?